Delaware Rock and Roll Society is here today to make a video and ask a zillion questions of Paul Janocha. Paul has been the chief recording engineer and producer at Kendall Studios. So we're going to learn a lot about him, and we're going to learn a bit about the studios as well. Let's see, when we talk about, I worked at that place, it usually doesn't run as long as yours does. What's your total amount of time working there?
Just 2 weeks shy of 36 years.
Holy mackerel. Wow, that's a generation plus.
It is.
Oh, geez. Now, it goes way back, because I know it used to be in Wilmington.
Yeah. Kendall Studios was originally founded in 1950 by Ed Kennedy, who he spent World War II in the Signal Corps, and when he came back home, he spent a couple of years in radio, and then he opened up the original Kendall Studios on Shipley Street in Wilmington in 1950. Spent a number of years there before moving to Air Street in Newport, and then in 1988 he built the final studio in the First State Industrial Park in Stanton.
Oh man, okay. And you knew him?
I knew him. Yeah, he hired me in 1988. I was fresh out of recording school. I went to Sound Lab Studios in Newark, Delaware. Roger Hoylman had a studio, and he taught a class in audio engineering. And after I had graduated from that course, I convinced Ed to hire me. So I was a 20-year-old kid, couldn't even buy a drink legally at that point.
Right.
But I got my foot in the door, and I was there for 36 years.
Oh my! Wow, that's cool. You definitely should get the gold watch. In the olden days, that used to happen. Oh goodness. So I know that not only do you handle everything sound and visual, you also are a performer. Who taught you guitar and bass?
I'm more or less self-taught,
Okay.
but I come from a large musical family, so there was always music in the house, so it was kind of inevitable. My parents they both sang in a church choir. My dad would listen to polkas and operettas on the weekends. My older brother Mark, who's 9 years older than me, he played in a band. He played keyboards. Matt played guitar. Luke played guitar and keyboards. Celeste is a pianist. She was always playing classical music and played in the church. And then my younger brothers Michael and Damien. Mike played guitar. Damien played drums. So there was always music in the house. So it was just it was always there. So I just kind of gravitated towards it.
Right. It was a matter of choosing which you would play.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, rather than, and you were in William Penn. I know. Did you have any musical resource there? Were there teachers who?
I didn't play in band in the school, but I did play in a band when I was at William Penn. I played in a band called Blue Mist. This is like 1981, 82, something like that.
Okay.
With some friends from the neighborhood. One of whom actually, Jerry Sabatino. After we had graduated, he went on to become the guitar tech for Tommy Conwell and the Young Rumblers.
Oh, yeah.
And then he started working with other bands, and eventually ended up being the guitar tech for Aerosmith for like 10 years or something like that.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we have members of the musical community who are doing, big time stuff. And you certainly have rubbed elbows with a lot of those people. So that's pretty cool as well. Did anybody have as good a hair as you did?
That came later.
Okay.
Because I spent 10 years in Catholic school, so I had to keep it really short. Once I left Salesianum and went to William Penn, then I just started growing it out from that point on.
Gotcha. Never again. Never again. Never again cutting it. Never again. I gotcha. The whole idea of your family being in music probably sponsors some of the versatility, because when somebody, comes, it's not a formulated formulated thing that people bring to you. They don't come in and say, here's my tape that I made. Here's my tape that I made, and this is what I want. And this is what I want you to do. It's a matter of them coming in and you deciding what needs to be done.
It's a combination of it, actually. Having the musical background that I have certainly helped, because I was exposed to a lot of different styles of music growing up. And it actually took a little while before I found my own music that I could call my own. Like from being the seventh of 10 kids, you get a lot of hand-me-downs, and not just like the clothing, but music. My older brothers, who are 10 years older than me, were listening to Grand Funk Railroad and Kansas and Pink Floyd and all these great classic rock bands. So I'm getting exposed to that stuff as a little kid. Mm-hmm. So it was probably the early 1980s when I discovered my music. It's like AC/DC, Back in Black. This was something that I found on my own. This was my music all of a sudden.
Yes.
So then I started to develop my own musical taste. But having that diverse background was it was invaluable moving forward, because working in a recording studio, I work with all genres. I do a lot of jazz. I do a lot of rap. I do rock. I do gospel. Everything. So to have all of that stuff in my background, I can pull from those influences. Yes. But at the same time, I'm not the kind of producer that dictates to the client, this is what you're going to sound like. My job is to find out what your musical vision is, and to help pull that out of you using whatever tricks I got in my bag.
Yeah, and that means truly investing in your project. Whatever the project is.
Absolutely, 100%. Because at the end of the day, my name goes on it too. So I'm not just going through the motions. I'm trying to get this to be the most that it can be. The best it can be. Absolutely.
Because you're part of the credits.
Right.
Yeah, always. That really makes it nice too. Now, do you play anything else other than the strings?
I play guitar, bass, a little bit of keyboards. The recording studio is my instrument.
Yes.
It really is. It really is.
Yes.
Because although I did spend many years playing in bar bands, I knew that if I was going to make a living making music, I'm not that great of a guitar player. So I wasn't going to make it as a guitar player. Right. But I found,
I can be a part of this world.
Exactly. And it goes back to, the way that we used to consume music, decades ago, where we would sit down with an album and listen to it actively. Right. And we would, look at the liner notes and see all of these names of all of these people who weren't on the front cover of the album. Right. But they played an important part in bringing that to the masses. Yes. So, what does an engineer do? What does a producer do? What's the difference between a producer and an executive producer? Or, exactly. There's all of these people, and all of these people are making a living making music, and that's what I wanted to do. Yes, and you wanted to be there. Exactly. That is so cool. Now, are you going to open another studio? I'm working out of a place called Wave Lab Studio, which is in Wilmington on West 3rd Street. So, I'm not going away. Even though Kendall has closed its doors, I'm still, this is what I do. It's who I am. It's who you are. I agree. Yeah. I agree. That is so cool. Why did it close? Well, it doesn't really matter. The guy that built the place, Ed Kennedy, he had passed about 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And then his wife, Marge, died about 2 or 3 years ago. So the ownership passed to the next generation. Okay. And basically they just decided to cash out. They weren't, gotcha. It wasn't their passion, and they're doing other things. They just decided to sell the building, sell the gear, and move on. Okay. So, moving on to some of the things you were doing. Yeah. Tell me about Face Down. I love the name. Face Down or Face Down.
Yes.
Yeah. So Face Down, it's a cover band. We played a lot of like Van Halen, Shine Down, modern hard rock, some classic rock, some
Yeah, I'm
some
looking at
Tom Petty and
American Girl, All the
absolutely.
Pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was an outgrowth of the previous band, which was Last in Line. So Last in Line was a tribute to Ronnie James Dio. So it was Dio, Sabbath, Rainbow, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So there was, Mario Padovani was the lead singer of that group, and then we had Brian Moore on guitar, Phil Malaprovo on guitar, and my brother Damien Janocha on drums, and myself on bass.
What was Phil's last name?
Malaprovo.
Okay.
Okay. So we kind of started Face Down as just an outgrowth of that because we didn't want to just do the Dio stuff.
Yeah.
So while that band continued, we also got another lead singer, and we started doing just basic covers. And that's where that band came from. The name was kind of interesting. We were throwing names around and just trying to figure out what to call ourselves. Right. And we came up with a list of maybe a dozen names or something like that. We narrowed it down to maybe 4 or 5, and we were at a Buffalo Wild Wings, and we wrote the names down on a piece of paper, and we called our waitress over and we said, if you and your girlfriends were going to go out to see a band and you had no idea what the band sounded like, which one of these bands would you go see, just based on the name? And she picked Face Down, and so that's where we stuck with that. Because
no, it's clever. It's clever. I like it. I like it. If you could have been any musical performer, who would you have wanted to be?
Oh Lord.
Or a couple. I won't do that. It has to be the only one.
If I could be that person, wow. Yeah, that's a tough question. I've always gravitated more towards the studio side of things. So I'd probably have to go with, someone like Phil Ramone or Brian Wilson, absolute genius. I would not want to have his personal life, but like the music that came out of that man it's ridiculous.
Beyond generational.
Yeah. But it would probably be someone that was more into the engineering and producing that got to be a part of that world and got to work with a Quincy Jones or somebody like that, that is just has the tentacles all over the place. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's a tough question.
And somebody who has continued to learn.
Absolutely.
And I think that's you have to, because you have
absolutely.
to be on top of the equipment.
Absolutely.
You have to. Yeah.
When I started in this business, if I wanted to edit something, I had a physical razor blade and I was cutting tape. There was, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I look at the way the technology has gone and the way that the younger generation is learning how to make music. And they certainly have a lot of advantages that I didn't have, or people of my generation or earlier. When I started recording, I had a Tascam 4-track cassette recorder, and so you had to have a whole different mindset for the way that you recorded. I mean, today,
and you had to be a mechanic.
You did, but there was no undo. You could, like, if you screwed something up, you couldn't just Control Z and it was you were back to where you were. If you pressed record, whatever was there before is gone forever. It's never coming back.
Oh man!
If you had 4 tracks or 16 tracks or 24 tracks, whatever, back in the analog days, you were limited to that, and so you had to record with intent. You had to kind of plan out what's going to be recorded, and is this an important element? Does it deserve its own track? Today I might have 3 or 4 tracks of just a tambourine. We couldn't afford that back then, because we were limited to the number of tracks. So, it created a mindset in me that that and all engineers and producers from my generation and
era.
before,
Yeah.
that the kids today don't have. And I don't want to sound like that old curmudgeon, like kids these days don't know how good they have it with their unlimited tracks and undo and all that.
Right.
But I'm really grateful that I came up in the era that I did. But to your point, today we have all this amazing technology. I can auto tune and I can have unlimited tracks and I can whatever. But and that's stuff that I just had to learn along the way. At one point in the 90s, Ed put a computer in the control room and said, okay, this is how we're going to record. Learn how to use it. And as the technology came along, you just had to learn it. So it's never ending for me as far as the education and how to work this stuff.
Right. I think it's really cool that, Ed, who was old at that point, was still willing to take the next level and not to say work where you are. So that's really nice.
Yeah.
That is really, really nice. Locally, is there a guitarist who impresses you? And I'm not asking you to squeeze anybody out.
No. Locally, I think there's hands down Vinnie Moore. And I don't know if you know Vinnie, but
I've heard that.
Okay, so Vinnie, he is back in the 80s, he was discovered by Mike Varney of Shrapnel Records, and he put out several neoclassical metal instrumental guitar albums.
Mm-hmm.
He then went on to play for Alice Cooper, and he toured with Alice Cooper, and eventually landed a gig playing in UFO, and he was with UFO for 10 years or something like that. So Vinny is just Newcastle boy, born and raised. He still lives in the area. He's a Delaware guy.
Over by the motor vehicle.
Yeah. So So Vinnie Moore is just a ridiculous guitar player, and I mean I've known him, since we were kids, because he grew up down the street from me. So.
Oh man, that is pretty cool.
Yeah.
That is definitely cool.
Another one that's from this area, but he's living in California now, is Mike Bruner, who's just another phenomenal guitar player. And he opened up the California Guitar Academy or something like that out there. It's just
neat.
Great guitar player.
Neat. I'm glad he's doing that because there are great guitar players who don't move it on. So that's pretty cool. It really has been for you about crafting and investing in music becoming a perfection. And that makes you valuable in anything you do in your life, in anything you do. And you probably, are not intolerant, but certainly lack interest in any body or any working that doesn't have that part. What did you come up with at the end? How did you change it? How did you refine it? And I think that's a neat thing. One of the things that I really like about you is the Yes Virginia project.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay. And so I want to know about the project. I want to know about the album.
Okay, so Yes Virginia, it started back in 1997. I came up with a hard rock version of Do You Hear What I Hear, the Christmas song. And I enlisted my Kid Ego bandmate Joe Merkel to help me out with this. He recorded the guitar, I played the other stuff. And that song ended up being played on the radio on WSTW. So that was kind of fun, and people kind of enjoyed it. So
give me some of the lyrics.
Well, it was a completely instrumental.
Oh,
so okay. It was just guitar, bass, drums, but it's kind of like a heavy metal version.
Our music.
So the following year we decided, let's do it again. The following Christmas, so we recorded a couple more songs, and it just kind of kept going. Year after year after year, we would record, maybe a song, maybe an entire album of Christmas music, but kind of done our way. And along the way, we've had, Mario Padovani, who sang in that Dio band. He came along, played some keyboards, and then he started doing vocals. And it's been kind of a revolving door of musicians every year. We're 27 years into this or something like that, and we just record and release music every year. And we've done a couple of, Toys for Tots benefit albums, and it's just a lot of, just have a lot of fun. It's kind of like our way of celebrating Christmas, and we've done this every year for, since '97.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Do they play it at any of the Toys for Tots events or whatever?
Well, we get airplay every year. Hometown Heroes, originally on WSTW and now on Delaware Public Media. Mark Rogers has been a
wonderful
big supporter.
Mark Rogers is an inductee.
Yes, and well deserved. He's a great supporter of the local music scene.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So we've got a lot. We have a lot of fun with that.
That is really, really cool. What a claim to fame. Lots of credits on other performers' albums.
Yeah.
Tell us about some of them.
Well, geez. Most of the artists that I've worked with over the years are local independent artists. Every once in a while, somebody will come through the door where, multiple Grammy winners. I've worked with Dionne Warwick. I've worked with Weird Al Yankovic. I've worked with The Temptations. One of my most memorable events, recording wise, I was working with, I'll back up a little bit. I did an album, a jazz album with a saxophone player named Carlton Cannon. He's a teacher over at Cab Calloway School of the Arts. And Carlton studied under a jazz trumpet player named Donald Byrd, who is a multi-Grammy winner. He's played with everyone from Thelonious Monk. He discovered Herbie Hancock. He played with everybody.
Yes.
And Carlton gave Dr. Byrd the copy of the CD, and he said, whenever you're ready to go back in the studio, this is the man I want you to go see. So I had the opportunity to work with Donald Byrd in the studio. And one of the projects that we had worked on was for something called the Jamie Aebersold Play Along series. So it's basically the hits of Donald Byrd minus the trumpet. So you can, if you're a trumpet player, you can kind of play along with it.
Oh, that's clever.
The band just got done recording one of Donald Byrd's songs called Cristo Redentor. It's an absolutely beautiful, haunting kind of song. If you've ever seen the movie A Bronx Tale, there's a scene in that movie right after that car wreck where those young boys died. That's the song that's playing in the background of that scene. It's called Cristo Redentor. So the band just got done playing that song, and they come into the control room to listen to a playback. And Donald Byrd is sitting right there next to me, and as we're listening to the playback, he pulls his trumpet out and he starts playing along with it. And that's just like one of those goosebump moments that it's like, I'm getting paid for this. This is like a legendary musician sitting right here next to me and playing this beautiful song. So that's one of those highlights of my career. It's not rock and roll, but it's absolutely one of these. Yeah. It's like, this is why I do what I do.
Yes. Yes.
One of those kind of moments.
Yes. On the days when I'm going, oh man, another hour, I still got another hour on this. You go, oh yeah, but I get there sometimes.
Exactly.
Sweet. What would you do more of if you had it to do over again?
Ooh, that's a good question. I've spent last 36 years in a recording studio, and I've had the opportunity to work with young artists that have their first time in the studio. I've had the opportunity to work with seasoned artists that have been around for decades, and I love I absolutely love that environment and the experience of just creating.
Yes.
So I just intend on doing that for as long as I possibly can.
Okay.
I do a lot of live sound engineering as well. I tour around the country with a vocal group called Lights Out.
And they're fun.
They're a lot of fun.
Yes.
They are a lot of fun. And they're great guys. I've met them over 20 years ago. They came into the studio to record a demo when they first got together. They've been together 25 years now. And they, we did a little bit of recording back then, and then we lost touch. And about 10 years ago, we reconnected, and they asked me if I was, if I'd want to go on the road with them. So I've been doing that for about 10 years now, and, 50, 60, 70 shows a year. And we're touring the country, all over the place, and we just have a lot of fun doing that. So that's a lot of fun. I enjoy that.
Neat.
Yeah.
Do you ever take any of your 7 children with you?
Occasionally, if it's a local show, they'll come out. If we're playing,
Sure.
At Wildwood or something like that, we're there.
They play at the
usually.
Shrine once in a while.
Yeah. So occasionally they'll come out to the shows, usually it's me and the guys crammed in a van, driving the PA Turnpike, because we do that a lot. We do a lot of stuff out in Ohio, Pittsburgh area. So, but we enjoy each other's company. We have a lot of fun, so that goes a long way.
Wow. I'm so glad you are still loving it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm so glad you are still loving it. When you were talking about the Donald Byrds and whatever, I was thinking I had started jotting a list and realized I would never get finished the list with all the professionals. But I'm impressed with the assortment of locals. Gerald Chavis, Faustina Dixon, Jackie Brown, Maya Bilardo. I know of all of these names.
Yeah.
Tommy Comwell, Boy Sets Fire, Maxine Jones of En Vogue, Melba Moore, The Temptations, Glenn Jones, Paul Richardson, who played the organ behind every Phillies game, I think it was.
Yeah, that was, and there was a period of time when I first started working at Kendall before we had the big studios done. So Paul had, we had some makeshift recording areas for some of his recording. So the album was primarily instrumental, but there were a couple of vocal tunes on there. And Tim Lauschy recorded, did the vocals, and he actually, we set him up in the men's room. So it was tile room. He did his vocals in the men's room, and then of course Paul Richardson, being the Phillies organist, he did a rendition of "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." So we went next door to the building next door. It was Chem Lawn, and we just asked them, the office staff, come on over. We need you guys for about 10 minutes. And so we had the office staff of Chem Lawn jammed into the conference room so that they can provide the vocals for "Take Me Out to the Ball Game."
Oh, wow. Incredible amount of memories.
Absolutely.
Incredible amount of memories. Now, does Jill Biden sing?
No, she...
did a great picture.
That was an audio book. So she it was right around the time that Joe was deciding to run for president, and they were gearing up with the whole propaganda machine or whatever. So she had put out a book, and she recorded her audio book at Kendall.
Oh man. Well, you're going to be part of something new for us. You're going to be inducted into the Delaware Rock and Roll Society Hall of Fame.
That's such an honor.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that. At the Smyrna Opera House, gets called SOH a lot. The Smyrna Opera House, with some phenomenal people who are all about music and art and creativity and sponsoring that. And that'll be our first event that we do there. Usually sells out. So sells out fast. That's the truth of it. I hope that you continue doing the Yes Virginia thing. And
Absolutely.
yeah, it would really be a cool thing to do as some kind of holiday event in conjunction with, uh, the Toys for Tots sort of thing.
Absolutely.
You could literally make that a everybody come on out, and check this out because it's fun and it's still holiday.
Yeah.
So that is super super neat. Um, any advice for musicians who are think that they're ready to record to get something recorded?
Um,
What are you looking for when they come in the door for them to be ready
well, I
for their piece to be ready to be recorded?
right. I think so much of it really comes down to songwriting, and you really need to focus on that. It's because it's so easy to, with this day and age, if you have a laptop computer
Right.
and you can download some software and you can use loops and you can make something that sounds like music pretty quickly and easily, but it's really the songwriting is what you really need to pay attention to. I mean, the songs that I'm listening to are I'm still listening to stuff from the 70s and
Sure.
80s, and uh, those songs have a life of their own.
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of today's music, it's today, and my kids, that was 2000, 18 or whatever. That's
Right.
old stuff. We don't listen to that anymore. Um, so I think it really comes down to songwriting is have something to say. Really have something to say and find your voice. And I think the main problem that I see with more contemporary recordings is that they are so perfect. Because you can perfect everything. You can take
Right.
a note that is flat and you can put it right on pitch. You can take a note that's late and you can put it, right on the beat.
Mhm.
But in doing that, and
You
we
lose
do it, and we do it because we can do it. We can make it perfect. But
Right. You lose
but
the passion.
you
of the
lose the passion. You lose the humanity, um, and there's something missing when you take all of that out. So don't be afraid to let the bad parts show. Um, I've got a friend of mine gave me a copy of the multi-track recordings for a bunch of famous songs. One of them is Queen and David Bowie, Under Pressure. And when you take those multi-tracks and listen to track by track what they did, first of all, Brian, it's a masterclass in arranging.
Okay.
Absolutely. Brian May is just a phenomenal guitar player. And when you listen to, there's actually 3 guitar tracks that are playing in that. It only sounds like one, but it's the way that the tone of each one and the way that they're layered together. And when you listen to them, there's mistakes. There's mistakes all over the place. If you listen to it, and by today's standards, you would say, oh, we have to fix that. But they left it in there, and it's just amazing. There's also a piano part in there that you don't hear when you listen to the song. There's that little plink plink that everybody knows, but there's this other piano part that's running through the entire piece that is sloppy as hell, but it makes the song. If you take it out, it's like something's missing, and it's
Make
so
it real.
make it real. It's got to be real. Music is
Yes.
about you have something inside you, whether it's an emotion or you have something to say or whatever, and it's got to be real.
Yeah.
It has to. Otherwise, people are going to forget it.
Right. Right. Very cool. Cool advice. Be true to yourself. That
Absolutely.
always comes back to that in
Yep.
so many things. Oh, thank you so much
Oh,
for this
thank you.
interview. You are a delight. I'm going to go smiling into the weekend here and
Thank
be
you.
thinking about things and laughing about it.
All right.
Okay, and congratulations
Thank you very much.
on becoming an inductee.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Okay,
It's an honor.
thank you.